You're listening to This Week in the World of Football, which is coming to you from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave, located in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. The purpose of this podcast is to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. The intent is to educate, inform, and entertain you, the listener, with the glorious buffet that is the world of football, while also keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. You can find this show on a multitude of podcast platforms as well as on YouTube. Timestamps are provided in the show description, so you can jump to the topics you really want to listen to. So without further ado, let's kick off this week's show.
Hello again, everyone. This is episode number 391 for April 29th, 2029. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On this week's show, the NFL draft in Green Bay was sure full of surprises. We found out the Lions and Chargers will be playing in the Hall of Fame game, and there was a 100-point game in the AF1, but it may not be as impressive as you think it'd be. But I'm not here all by myself. Across the table from me, as always, is my son, Adam.
Hi, what a weekend. Good Lord. You talk about, like, overdosing on football. We might have done that this weekend.
Oh, yeah. We went to Springville, New York, and we hung out for a couple of days with a bunch of fellow football research nerds and had a fantastic time.
I was going to say, that's how I have to describe it to my fiance and other people. Like, what did you do over the weekend? I just hung out with football nerds.
Uh-huh.
It's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great time. We watched 3 arena games at one time in our hotel room. And
watched the draft.
Had the draft on recall on TV.
What else did we do? I think there's a UFL game we watched.
Yep, we watched cuts on the Michigan Panthers game.
It was just, man, overload.
Yeah, football overdose, that's for sure. But, man, what a great time. Let's see.
I was going to say, wow, what a pause.
Well, I lost my place in the script here. Not only do we do this weekly podcast, but we also make YouTube videos. We currently have over 550 videos on our YouTube channel, with the newest being our AF1 Week 7 recap that we just posted last night.
Yeah.
When we talked about all the games that were played. During our weekend, I also got to interview Gary Cobb, who wrote a book about the city of Sacramento and how they had an NFL team, CFL team, and an arena team.
NFL Europe,
well,
or
NFL
World
Europe,
League of American Football.
It was World League of American Football, but that's NFL.
Yeah.
It was a CFL USA team, and they had an Arena Football League team all in the course of just a few years. It's like one right after the other in that city. And he wrote a book about that and explained how that all came to be. And a nice little interview. He also runs the Buffalo Destroyers Museum, and he had some artifacts from that he was showing us. So what was that, about a 10-minute video?
Yeah. Just about, yeah.
Yeah, nice, quick little interview, and
nice guy.
Go check that out. Very nice guy, and he's very happy with this book of his. So, yeah, he and I've been trying to get together to do an interview for some time, and one thing leads to another, but we finally got together in New York for this. So, and then we also have an upcoming video, which will be our AF1 Week 8 recap coming up next week.
And depending on Kyle, we should have a Just Lying Around at some point.
Post-draft
recapping
edition?
that you would think. I mean, he's been off work for a few weeks.
Yeah.
We won't get into that, some health stuff. But
right.
I told him, hey, you got all the time in the world, bud. Just let me know. Let me know when we're doing a show.
Just because you're not working doesn't mean you're not working for Adam these days.
Hold on. We all know he's just sitting on his butt, playing video games probably, while his wife goes to work every day. He's just a bum staying at home. Actually, it wasn't his choice. The doctor told him to take a couple more weeks. So.
Yeah, he was supposed to go back to work this week, but the doctor said, nah, you better stay home another week or two, I guess. Yep. What a guy. All right, so let's begin our weekly tour around the world of football, and we're going to start off this week with scores from Arena Football 1. This was Week 7 in the AF1, and it started out with a bang, I guess you could say. On Friday night, it was the Albany Firebirds taking apart the Corpus Christi Tritons by the score of 100-12.
Picking apart a carcass that might have already been decaying.
Yeah, the Firebirds scored a deuce on the opening kickoff and just never looked back. This was 79-0 at halftime. It was 87-0 in the third quarter before Corpus Christi even got on the scoreboard. And the story with this game is that not all the players were the regular players. We believe that a number of them were replacement players in this game. there's something going on with the collective bargaining agreement and players not being paid.
I don't know about a collective bargaining agreement. That's the UFL dealing with that. This is just guys just not outright getting paid, having no insurance.
Yeah, they said they hadn't been paid in 3 weeks, I guess.
There's a lot. There's a lot to this and more coming out, but we talked quite a bit about it in our video last night, so go check that out if you want a little more in depth. We'll kind of give you the brush strokes and kind of the stuff that's kind of come out since we did our video last night. Like if you go to the AF1's transactions page, it is littered with Corpus Christi players from top to bottom.
Leaving the team?
So essentially...
being let go?
Yeah. The way they phrase some of these, like there's a couple suspensions, and then there's just outright releases. So like Darius Prince is one of those players. So I find that odd because Darius Prince, one of the best receivers in the arena game.
Right.
And the fact that it sounded like he was leaving on his terms, but the way the thing makes it sound is, we're releasing you.
Oh, jeez.
And there's a couple things about this that, I don't know, I think it could go either way. Let's see, April 29th transactions. If I could get the page to open, here we go. So, Corpus Christi, if I go down the list here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys being just outright released. Immediately eligible to sign anywhere as free agents. And then there are 2 players who have been placed on team suspension. That's the kicker and Jared McGraw, wide receiver. So, yeah, so players like Arthur Anderson, Isaiah McFarland, Torrance Williams, Reggie Howard, Darius Prince, Dwayne Hollis, Terrence Ames, and Jamal Wynn II, all released by the Corpus Christi Tritons. Wow. So does that mean whatever this issue is with payment, is it they are done, this franchise is cooked, and the league hasn't come out and said anything yet, and they're just going to fold them? Is the team just going to fold itself, or is the team just getting rid of all these guys that might have cost extra money, and they're just going to keep fielding scrubs to get through the rest of the year?
I have no idea.
It's anybody's guess.
It's a sad situation.
It's a very sad situation. It stinks because they were good. They had a lot of great players. And this ownership group, apparently the owner, if you believe a lot of the stuff on some of these forums, people coming out and saying that this owner's a crook anyway, and he's done this before, and I don't know. There's a lot of stuff floating around.
Well, Corpus Christi is still tied for second place in the league right now with a 3-2 record.
Well, I think they moved down to third because there's another team that percentage-wise is above them. But the team they fielded and a team they're going to field going forward, now that you've already lost all these guys, you're not that high. I've already seen power rankings that only have 7 teams in the league and not 8. So unofficial. These are like other arena pundits, but hard to say. Look, with the Firebirds, look, I know there's a lot of debate. Like, they hung up 100 points on a scrub team.
Right.
I already made it known on our video. Not a fan of their social media boasting, puffing out their chest. Look at what we did. Everybody. Okay.
Yeah. All the records they said.
All the records I'm going to put in quotes. But I get they had to do, they did what they were supposed to do. They went and they played the game, and they didn't let off the gas, which I'm okay with. I know you were thinking maybe they should have let up the gas, but that's...
Well, even after 100 points in the closing minutes of the game, they were still trying to score more points, and I thought that was uncalled for.
Maybe not.
You've already scored 100 points.
What do I always say when it comes to stuff like that? Well, stop them then.
It's obvious they couldn't.
And it's obvious they couldn't. But, look, we'll feel 2 different ways about that. That's fine. But go ahead.
But the one thing I did want to say is the Albany kicker, Henry Nell, regardless of who he was playing against, as a kicker, he had a pretty good evening. He scored 26 points all by himself. He had 5 deuces. I mean, you can't stop that.
Right.
5 deuces, that's impressive in one game. He had 6 2-point drop kicks in the game. I've never seen more than 1 in a game, I think.
I think playing that type of opponent, though, the more I think about it, I was like, well, okay, I guess that would lend you to at least attempt
Maybe they didn't have much of a rush, yes. And he also had a 2-point conversion reception because they had a bad snap, and so he ran out and ran to the end zone, and the quarterback just kind of scrambled around a little bit, found him, and he caught a 2-point conversion in the end zone. So 26 points just for him, so that's pretty impressive. He's been having an impressive season so far, and I just think that was a big highlight to me. Even though it was 100-0, he individually had a pretty good game.
Yeah, I agree. The kicking aspect in this game, which is what we want. We want great kickers,
right?
And he's great.
Right.
He's probably the best kicker in the league. He's taking advantage of the nets and the advantage of the deuce rule, and I'm A-okay with that.
Yeah.
And if you're a team, it doesn't matter. They could have been playing any of the other 6 teams in the league, and they would have been the same. It would have been the same. He knows how to hit that deuce.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
I can't. Yeah. So the kicker is the one I will give a pass to.
Right.
So Mr. Nell, if you want to hop on the podcast anytime, or just hit us up. But yeah. So let's move on to the next game. As we'll see if more developments come about this Corpus Christi situation.
This is just the tip of the iceberg in Corpus Christi.
So and they get a bye this upcoming week, so we'll see what developments happen there. All right, you want to move on to the next game?
Yes, please.
Okay, go for it.
Salina Liberty over the Billings Outlaws, 43-37. This was the national TV game on Vice. Billings was down 12-0 in the first, but they came back to make the score 15-14. So they were down by 1 point at the half. This was a great second half in this game. I don't think we saw much of the first half, but we did see most of the second half. Back and forth, we score, they score, back and forth. And
you keep saying this we. Look, I like Billings, but I don't really have a team. As much as I'll root for them, I don't really have a team in the AF1 this year. I'm just kind of...
Well, since I do and you don't, then you can have, join me on my team.
I'll just root for the league to get to the end of the year with no more controversies. What I'm rooting for.
But anyway, Salina was able to hold on for a 6-point win at the end. I think that's 3 in a row for Billings. Because they started out 2-0 and now they're 2-3. So they need to kind of right that ship. But obviously, there's a lot of players out there that are looking for jobs, and maybe Billings will take advantage of a few of those guys.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Again, the transaction wire is. It's going to be crazy. It's already crazy. We'll see how many of those guys get picked up by a Billings or one of these other teams to really take them over the top and make them compatible with Albany, because I think the better competition Albany has, the more entertaining it'll be for the rest of us. So.
Sure. Yep. All right. Also on Friday night, this was the third of the 3 games that night. The Washington Wolfpack defeated the Oregon Lightning 41-30. This was the first road game for the Wolfpack after having 5 home games to start the season. Washington led 20-0 at halftime. They led 41-0 in the third quarter, and then the Lightning offense finally came to life. They scored 30 unanswered points in the second half, including a 50-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, but it was just not enough. So Wolfpack come up with a win there. And that's everything I got for that game. Did you want to say anything about that one?
I mean, other than, like you already said, a 30 unanswered point, crazy that one team scored and couldn't score, then the other team scored a bunch of points. The broadcast was delayed to start.
Okay.
Because remember, it was supposed to be like a 9:30 kickoff.
Yep, that was late kick
Eastern time, and it was well about 10 o'clock before any of that feed started up. So I was a little worried about that, between that and what was going on in Corpus Christi all at that same time.
Right.
But it was, I don't know. So they had some issues with Evergreen now there, but they finally got it up. And even when you go back to look at the replay, it just starts up where the actual stream started up. So something happened. I haven't heard any official word what exactly went down, but we probably won't. But Washington, with their quarterback change in the middle of the week, they let go of Ed Crouch. They got this new quarterback in there. I forget his name at the top of my head, but he played a decent game. Clearly helped the Wolfpack get a win, and these two teams will face each other again this upcoming week.
Okay, and then the last game in the AF1 was on Saturday night. The Nashville Cats defeated the Southwest Kansas Storm 41-37. Southwest Kansas had a 14-0 lead at the end of the first quarter, but the Cats came back, and it was a 1-point game at halftime, 23-22. With under a minute, though, Nashville led 39-37. Another game that was back and forth in the whole second half, very entertaining second half, and all that was left in the final minute was a safety, and made the final score 41-37 in favor of Nashville. So that was a very entertaining game, and an exciting ending to that one.
Yep, and Nashville's stock just keeps going up and up. I think that is their 3rd straight win now, after starting 0-2.
Yeah.
So watch out for those Nashville Cats. They should be interesting to see what they do going forward, but they'll have a bye this week. So guess regroup and march forward.
Okay, and this coming week, week 8, we have 2 games on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. On Saturday, we've got the Billings Outlaws at the Southwest Kansas Storm. Salina Liberty travel to Albany for a game. And on Sunday, it's the Oregon Lightning at the Washington Wolfpack, a rematch of this past weekend's game. 2 teams on bye. Corpus Christi and the Nashville Cats have byes this week. And looking at the AF1 standings after Week 7, you've got the Albany Firebirds at 6-0. Nashville is 3-2. Corpus Christi is 3-2. Southwest Kansas Storm 4-3. Billings Outlaws 2-3. Salina Liberty 2-4. Washington is at 2-4, and Oregon is at 1-5 on the season.
Yep, look at the stock of the Salina Liberty going up, the Nashville Cat stock going up. The Storm are Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
One week they're great, the next week like they aren't. But I like their quarterback still. Jalen Morton's something else. So we'll have to see what the Storm do going forward. But, man, if you're not Albany, there's a lot of intrigue, though, with the rest of these teams.
Right, yeah. And then there was a story that came out this week saying that the Stockton Crusaders, which was a team that was supposed to be playing this season, but they decided to hold off one more year, they came out and said they are still planning to play in the 2026 season. So the first team that we've somewhat confirmed that they are, well, not that they're definitely going to play, but they intend to play next year.
We shall see. I know we talked last week about the commissioner coming out and talking about expansion and all that, and the league even coming out and admitting to the missed call at the end of the game last week between the Storm and the Tritons. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with this league. Let's get through a season.
Yeah.
I mean, we already got this Corpus Christi thing going on. Let's see how this gets resolved before we start getting our hopes up about a future team.
Yeah. All right, Adam, why don't you go over the National Arena League scores?
With pleasure. Over in the National Arena League, it was Week 8, and Saturday night saw a game that came down to the wire here as the Beaumont Renegades scored a last-second touchdown to defeat the Sioux City Bandits 38-35. The Renegades just beating everybody. They remain undefeated now. They've beaten 2 of the teams that were in the title game. Now they beat a pretty decent Sioux Falls Bandits team. Sioux City Bandits, sorry. And I think the Renegades are the team to beat as of right now in this league.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise. They're kind of coming out of nowhere.
And being an expansion team, it is a bit of a surprise, but I mean, they've clearly got some dudes on that roster.
Okay.
Then Saturday night as well, the Colorado Spartans defeated the Columbus Lions 42-38. That's now 3 losses in a row for the Columbus Lions after starting 2-0 and obviously playing in that championship game a season ago. And for the Spartans, they have now won 3 in a row. And does that include the games against the out-of-league teams?
No, okay. I don't think so.
Just making sure, because this next game is a non-league exhibition game. And I'm just going to read it, and we're going to move on because it's an exhibition game, and I do not care, as the Idaho Horsemen defeated the Las Vegas Kings 62-24. On bye this week, the Wheeling Miners, Omaha Beef, and Shreveport Rougarou. And why do the Rougarou have a bye this week? I thought they were supposed to play a game. Well, funny you all should ask that question. Because Wolf, the Carolina Cobras, a team that, while they weren't the same entity, there was a Carolina Cobras team that played in the Arena Football League years ago. Always liked the Cobras name and the logo. Yep. They were always a cool team. Kind of re-emerged or rebirthed in this National Arena League. And, it has become apparent and, that they are going to be going dormant for the remainder of the season for circumstances beyond their control.
That's what they said in their statement.
Yeah. They were supposed to have a game against Shreveport last week, and obviously it didn't happen. And I think the Rougarou were doing some sort of fan thing to make up for the lost game. But, a lot of weird stuff in Carolina. Apparently they didn't have enough players or something else was happening, finances. I'm sure any of those excuses, apply. This is a typical indoor/arena season kind of thing. Which teams are going to fold? Well, add the Cobras to the list.
Yeah, yeah. And what's going on with the Columbus Lions? Man, they've been such a powerhouse, and all of a sudden they're on a 3-game losing streak, and I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I just think maybe they've come across some good teams. The Renegades have been great all year. The Colorados and with the Renegades also, they had like that month off essentially, like 30. What was it, like 28, 30 day like. Between games or something. It's crazy how their schedule kind of worked out. But and then I think the Colorado Spartans are an improving team. kind of from what I've seen.
Yeah, they've been playing pretty good.
They're 4-2 on the year. I know you're about to go through the standings, but they're a team that's kind of shown some solid footing now. So I mean, these breadwinners are the teams that we're kind of used to, being at the top of these other leagues, or especially the National Arena League the last couple of years.
Right.
Kind of faltering between the Omaha Beef and the Columbus Lions. But I mean, I say faltering. They've each lost just a couple of games. So I mean,
well, the last couple of years, the Columbus Lions have been playing in some patched together leagues against very inferior opponents. So maybe they looked better than they really were. But now they've got some serious competition, and it's showing. It's showing on the field.
Or maybe their talent pool just getting dispersed. Who knows?
Yep, who knows?
All right, let's preview what's happening next week, which will be Week 9 in the NAL. Saturday, you'll have a triple header, which starts with the Shreveport Rougarou taking on the Beaumont Renegades. Then a non-league exhibition game as the Omaha Beef will host the Dallas Falcons, a.k.a. the Philadelphia Soul from a year ago, if you all remember that. Also Saturday, the Wheeling Miners will play a real game against the Colorado Spartans, and another real game as the Sioux City Bandits will take on the Idaho Horsemen, and then on by the Columbus Lions. And looking at your National Arena League standings after 8 weeks, they have 2 divisions. So we're going to start with the American Division, which sees the Beaumont Renegades at 4-0, the Columbus Lions and Wheeling Miners at 2-3, and the Shreveport Rougarou at 1-2. In the National Division, the Omaha Beef sit at 4-1, the Colorado Spartans at 4-2, the Idaho Horsemen at 3-3, and the Sioux City Bandits at 2-3. And with that, we're going to throw it over to Randy, who's going to talk about the Indoor Football League.
Yes, a bunch of games in the Indoor Football League this week. 4 games on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. Saturday, it was the Vegas Nighthawks over the San Antonio Gunslingers, 35-28. The Quad City Steamwheelers defeated the Jacksonville Sharks, 62-41. The Iowa Barnstormers beat the Fishers Freight, 68-37. Arizona Rattlers over the Northern Arizona Wranglers, 49-20. Green Bay Blizzard over the Massachusetts Pirates, 47-34. That was a Sunday game. And in the other Sunday game, it was the Tucson Sugar Skulls over the San Diego Strike Force, 45-22. On by were the Bay Area Panthers and the Tulsa Oilers in that league. Let's look at what's coming up this coming week. It looks like another full slate of games this coming week for Week 7. It's going to be Quad City at Fishers, Iowa at Jacksonville, Green Bay at Tulsa, Northern Arizona at Vegas, the Arizona Rattlers at the Tucson Sugar Skulls, and on Sunday it's going to be San Diego at Bay Area, and on by is the San Antonio Gunslingers and the Massachusetts Pirates. Looking at the standings in the Indoor Football League after Week 6, again, they have 2 divisions, so we're going to start in the East. It's the Quad City Steamwheelers at 5-0, Green Bay Blizzard at 3-2, as well as the Jacksonville Sharks, Massachusetts Pirates at 2-3, as well as the Fishers Freight 2-3, Tulsa Oilers 2-2, Iowa Barnstormers at 1-3. In the West Division, it's the Arizona Rattlers at 4-0, Bay City Panthers at Bay Area. I was thinking Bay City Rollers. You wouldn't know anything about that.
Isn't that a roller derby?
No, that was a rock and roll band back in the 80s.
It sounded like a roller derby thing you might have watched.
The ones that did SATURDAY.
Well, yeah, don't finish the song. We don't want to get demonetized or fined.
Yeah. Let's see. Bay Area Panthers at 3-1. Vegas Nighthawks at 2-2. San Diego Strike Force at 2-2. San Antonio Gunslingers at 4-1. Tucson
1-4.
I'm sorry, 1-4. Tucson Sugar Skulls at 1-3, and the Northern Arizona Wranglers at 0-4. And
who was your pick to win the IFL championship?
I picked the Fishers Freight to win it all.
No,
this
you
year.
did not. That was me.
That's right.
Stop stealing my pick.
I picked Tucson.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, Tucson Sugar Skulls.
I thought you took the Northern Arizona Wranglers.
No, I was Tucson because they're hosting the championship game this year.
Okay, I don't remember that. I thought it was Northern Arizona because
No.
I took the Fishers Freight, who haven't won a game since we've seen them in person. I hope we didn't curse them. I blame you for calling JT TJ.
Well,
during the
didn't
interview.
they win a second game and then
we
they
were the
lost?
second game.
Oh, that's right. It was
Yep.
a home opener.
We've cursed them.
but it was the second.
They're never
game
going to have
this
us back at Fishers. Way to
All
go.
right. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the UFL, and Adam, you can handle that.
Oh, I can handle. Oh, can I?
Mhm.
Do you trust me enough to handle the UFL?
No, I don't, but go ahead.
Okay, well, look, the United Football League is in Week 5. We're halfway through the season. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And it started Friday night as the Memphis Showboats, how about this, defeated the Birmingham Stallions in overtime. This was a heck of a game. This is a game we caught the tail end of. You know, our buddy Royce is covering the Showboats over at AFN, so we kind of messaged a little bit. I mean, he since we missed most of the game, he told us to go back and rewatch it because they had a different quarterback for the Showboats who clearly looked like he's the answer for that team. But this came down to overtime, and the overtime rules in the UFL are pretty interesting. It's like a shootout. I think I don't know what yard line they started off on. I can't tell if it was the 2 or the 5. I'd have to go back and rewatch the highlights. But we were watching it live, and I was pretty entertained by it. Essentially, you know, teams trading 2-point conversion attempts. And the Showboats were just able to get the ball in the end zone a couple of extra times, and Birmingham couldn't. So kudos to the Showboats for a nice big win against the division-leading Birmingham Stallions.
Yeah.
All right, then Saturday night, a game we ended up watching most of the second half, I want to say.
Yep.
As the St. Louis Battlehawks at home in front of a ruckus crowd of like 30,000 people again. Good for St. Louis.
Yep.
I love that their fans are so passionate,
Yep.
and we've been there. We can attest to how awesome they are.
Yep.
They defeated our beloved Michigan Panthers 32-27. This game was very entertaining in the second half. But unfortunately, the only thing people are going to be talking about is not the great back and forth between these two teams, but more so what happened after the game as Panthers wide receiver Samson Nacua, brother of Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua, slapped a fan during a verbal exchange after the game. Now, I watched this, and look, it wasn't really a slap. He kind of swiped and kind of hit the brim of the guy's hat. Still not cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fan said to instigate this. Regardless, you're a professional athlete. I don't care what league you're in. You cannot, under any circumstances, touch a fan.
Right.
Or you can't even get a finger on the brim of his hat. And that's what happened here. And it was announced today that he would be getting, Nacua, that is, getting a 1-game suspension. Now, I think a lot of people are surprised by this, thinking, hey, you touch a fan, it should be kicked out of the league. It should be this, that. If it's only a 1-game suspension, do you think that means maybe there's more to this? Maybe there was some more stuff with the fan than we know?
I don't know. It's hard to. I was surprised that it was just a 1-game suspension. Normally you'd get 2 or 3 games maybe,
right.
But they've only got 5 games left in their season. I
mean,
don't know if that makes a difference.
I'm shocked, especially with his name. Just ejecting him from the league maybe because you just can't do this.
Yeah.
I mean, the UFL has been on thin ice all year with probably fan perception and like, is this even going to make it? Because of the whole bargaining agreement thing, which I think they got resolved. So, is it any press is good press or?
I don't
I mean,
so.
you don't want this, but I mean, it got a lot of people talking about your league.
Yeah. And maybe because he is such a name,
just being related to
that
Puka.
they just gave him 1 game, just like, all right, just don't do it again and take this week off.
We'll see. But so that's how that ended up and went down.
And that was without pay too, wasn't it?
Yep, without pay. Yep,
Yeah.
and they said he also have to do some community service, and the league will determine that at a later time.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
all right. Then Sunday we had 2 games. The first one saw the DC Defenders come back against the Arlington Renegades, 37-33, for the biggest comeback in UFL history. That's right. DC was down 33-22 in the third quarter, and they scored 15 unanswered points to win this game. The DC Defenders are right now probably the best team in the league. At least they were. I mean, if you look at their records, you might say a different team, but I think the Defenders have shown that they're kind of the team to beat. And I'm questioning your standings you have there, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, good for DC. They have one of the other best fan bases. The Beer Snake is something I want to participate in at some point. I'm looking forward to doing that one of these days. That's on my bucket list. So kudos to them for a big comeback like that. That had to have been thrilling. I think we were on the road for that game, so we didn't get to see that live. Then the other game Sunday saw the Houston Roughnecks defeat the San Antonio Brahmas 27-3. And that'll lead us into what is happening next week for Week 6. Well, Friday night, you're going to have the Arlington Renegades travel to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks. Saturday's lone game will be the Memphis Showboats at the Houston Roughnecks. Then Sunday, you got the DC Defenders coming to Michigan to take on the Panthers. And Sunday night, the San Antonio Brahmas will be taking on the Birmingham Stallions.
Yeah, I guess I did mess up those standings.
Yeah, I was going to say. So your standings right now, after 5 weeks, in the USFL division, you have Birmingham and the Michigan Panthers both at 3-2, followed by the 2-3 Houston Roughnecks and the 1-4 Memphis Showboats. And then in the XFL division, you have the DC Defenders at 4-1, the Arlington Renegades at 3-2, and the St. Louis Battlehawks at 3-2, and then the San Antonio Brahmas at 1-4. And just looking at your things there, I think you just mixed up divisions.
Yeah, the top two teams. Yeah, the Defenders and Birmingham. I had the records backwards.
But it's all good.
Yeah.
All right.
I tried.
Yep. All good. So that's it for that. And now we've reached probably the halfway point in this show. Probably going to be a long one because we have a lot to talk about with the NFL draft. So, Dad, let's throw it over to you to talk some NFL news / mainly the draft.
Yeah, more happenings in the world of football. Of course, everybody was fixated on the NFL draft this past weekend. Number one player picked, Cam Ward from FSU, who was picked by Tennessee after a trade with Cleveland. The number 2 spot, the Jacksonville Jaguars took Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner, two-way player from Colorado. Number 6 was running back Ashton Genty from Boise State to Las Vegas. Number 25 was quarterback Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. He went to the Giants. And at number 28, our Detroit Lions took defensive tackle Tyreek Williams from Ohio State. That's a big guy. And then basically it was just a draft until you got to the 5th round.
Well,
but it was all about Shedeur. Where is Shedeur? Why didn't he?
The craziness of the weekend. Now, look, I'm sure everybody listening is familiar with what happened this past weekend. But
everybody's got their own opinion.
But for prosperity's sake, let's set the stage here. So Shedeur Sanders, one of the top prospects in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of everybody figured he was going to end up top of the first round somewhere. There's going to be a team to take him.
Sure.
And as he kept falling, I mean, the whole world just seemed to catch on fire. I personally, I've gone on the record before saying that I thought Shedeur has been an overrated player. He shouldn't have had his number retired. And I think I might have been justified a little bit because for 5 rounds, no NFL team touched him.
Yeah.
Now there's stories coming out about owners saying don't pick him, or stories now coming out because I guess when you think about it, after the combine, the months of March and April are pretty loose-lipped. A lot of teams, it's lying season. It's misinformation. It's all this stuff so teams don't know what other teams are doing.
Right.
And a lot of the stories are kind of kept under wraps before the draft. So it wasn't until after the draft that some of these stories started coming out about how Shedeur handled himself in interviews. And it was no secret how Dion was acting as, kind of his agent.
Right.
And that all kind of hurt his draft stock. I mean, you see some of the numbers. People are projecting that he's lost somewheres, around $40 million from going from a first-round pick to a fifth-round pick.
Yeah.
And I know everybody else has got their conspiracy theories. They're playing the race card. They're playing the, all these other things, all these excuses, and I'm sure it could be a combination of a bunch of them. I really don't know. All I know is clearly NFL teams, and I don't think there's collusion. There is no way that these 32 teams.
Yeah, they can't agree on anything.
All agreed on that. So to me, it is more of there were maybe, and I should have sat down and wrote down which teams I thought needed quarterbacks. Let's say there's like 7 teams that maybe needed some sort of starting quarterback, right? So that leaves 25 other teams that didn't need to take Shedeur. Mm-hmm. So of course he would sink through the draft like that.
Sure.
But I 5th round is still shocking.
Right. Yeah.
I would have said if you would have been taken late 2nd, early 3rd, perfect spot for him.
Yeah.
A spot where you could, little less risk, and maybe he could still possibly be a starter in this league, depending on the team you went to. But clearly nobody thought so.
But everybody had him going to the Cleveland Browns anyway with the second pick.
Well, he thought he was going to the Giants. Yeah. He had those custom cleats ready to go, and apparently the Giants organization is the one that had the biggest red flag on the guy. You know, if you watched the Hard Knocks last year, remember how Dable ran those quarterbacks through a lot of those whiteboard drills and asking them questions and grilling them. It was one of the better aspects of it. And like you see, like Jaden Daniels, it's no wonder he went as high as he did. His smart young quarterback. Apparently, Shador just couldn't do it, wasn't prepared, and they took note of that. And, you know, I guess behind the scenes, you know, between him and Dion, they were syncing interviews with other teams. Like, oh, I'm not going to you, so I'm not going to put in the effort.
Right.
We're going to dictate where I go. That whole mentality bit him in the butt.
Yeah.
And look, could Shador maybe start in this league? Maybe, especially with the Cleveland Browns. But, I mean, now their quarterback room is 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They even took a guy in the 3rd round, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Right. So what did they do when they drafted 2 quarterbacks? They already got Flacco, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. They got Kenny Pickett, and then they got Deshaun Watson, which I'm sure he's not going to play this year. So really, you got 4 quarterbacks. So was this Cleveland just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks? Or is it truly like they're getting a first-round talent in the 5th round?
Yeah.
Which, if you look at it that way, that's the greatest draft value probably of all time.
Right, yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to look at this situation. All I know is that somebody put it best when we were at our convention over the weekend in Western New York. Somebody I didn't like that they had to interrupt the guest speaker.
Oh.
But they did say, Shador's finally been drafted. And you did turn to me and you go, finally, our national nightmare is over. Because that's all anybody was talking about. I was so sick of it.
Yep.
And what stinks is there was more talk about Shador Sanders than the number 1 pick.
Right.
Cam Ward deserves so much to be talked about him because I don't know if you have that in here. When he did his press conference, Warren Moon came out and said, we can unretire my number and give it to Cam Ward. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
That he's allowing his number to be unretired for this kid who, when he walked out, he wasn't wearing the big flashy suit.
Right.
People barely talked about him. He was all business. And I'm excited to see what this Cam Ward kid could do. I just feel bad that the number 1 pick in the draft is not talked about as much as the 5th round, 144th overall pick.
Yeah, well, I'm just surprised because with the number retirement or unretirement, I don't think that the player asked for that.
I don't think he did. I think Warren Moon just came out and said, "Hey, you can have it."
Yep. Yeah, and he probably had been planning this for some time, knowing that that's who they were going to pick.
Probably, and then Warren Moon also might have let slip that the Titans are working on some new uniforms that may or may not incorporate some Houston Oiler look to it, because he was asked about the throwbacks, and you're probably not going to see those much longer, which a lot of people took as, are the Titans going to embrace the Houston Oiler color scheme maybe, and we'll see.
Yeah.
But that's back to the draft. We can move on from the Shador thing. I mean,
no, we can't because
why not?
Because my next story is the 21-year-old son of the Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, whose name is Jax, by the way, Jax, prank called Shador after getting his private phone number from an unattended iPad owned by his father. He claimed in this prank call to be New Orleans Saints general manager Mickey Loomis, and told Shador that the Saints would be picking him with their next pick.
Yeah, this video went out there, and I probably laughed at first.
And why would you videotape yourself? Evidently, he wanted to get caught.
Because kids are stupid.
Kids are stupid.
But, boy, it stinks. I mean, while the prank, I'm sure there's certain spots where it's funny. And he wasn't the only one that got pranked, by the way. A couple other players got pranked. I
did hear one other one. I saw a headline, but I didn't read the story.
But, look, these guys, this is the phone call they've been waiting for.
Sure, yeah,
for
their
whole
lives.
Careers and lives. And to have it, woof. That stinks. Yeah. I mean, I do feel bad for Shador at that point. Like, look, man, I get you're waiting for that phone call, and it probably sucks that you spent all this money on your own draft room and your own draft party, and you had to wait till the 3rd day, and then you're getting prank called in between. It's just doesn't help.
Yeah,
but
that was uncalled for.
But he, I mean, give Shador a little bit of credit. He took it in stride. He even like said, "Hey, man, it's cool." Like, I guess him and the kid talked.
Yeah, the kid apologized.
But Shador, was a class act about it the whole time. So give Shador a little bit of credit there. That might speak a lot to his character.
Yeah.
So we'll see about him going forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we done with the Sanders family? I don't think I could take another news story about these guys.
Not so fast, my friend, because
God.
Shador's brother Shiloh Sanders supposedly has fired his father and signed with an agent just before he signed as a free agent with the Bucks after the draft. So I think he saw what happened to Shador, and maybe he does blame his father for that. So he said, "You know what, Dad? I think I'm going to go on my own on this."
What kind of conversation do you think that was? Dad, you suck. I'm signing an agent.
Jeez. Yeah, and they all three of them seem pretty close, the father and his sons.
I'm sure Dion. I think Dion's finally come around to, okay, maybe I handled this whole thing wrong. As hard as it is, I'm sure Dion will never admit it.
No. Well,
his ego's too big for that. But speaking of the Buccaneers, I don't think you have this story in there, but I want to throw this out at you. The Bucs drafted both the heaviest player and the lightest player in the draft. Did you see this?
No, I did not see that.
So they drafted at 464 pounds Desmond Watson from Florida.
Dang.
He a big dude, and I'll show you the picture here in a second. And they drafted the smallest player at 154 pounds and Tez Johnson from Oregon. Look at the size comparison of these two dudes.
Is it the 154 guy? Is he a kicker?
I know it. He's not a kicker, I don't think. He looks like a wide receiver or something.
Yeah,
I don't know their positions. I just saw this graphic and I was like, yeesh.
Wow. Yeah, that's
a big
quite
dude.
quite a comparison of those two guys.
It's a big dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was interesting. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay. Well, let's talk some Lions. We haven't talked about the Lions here in a couple minutes.
We don't talk about them enough on this show.
Lions' third-round draft pick, Isaac. I think they're pronouncing it Tesla, is what I've heard lately. Some people were saying Tesla, but I'm hearing more Tesla from the Lions organization. He showed up for his pre-draft interview some time ago in Detroit wearing a Detroit Lions jersey, and I think that impressed him because he's from Michigan. He won a state championship with, I think, Unity Christian or something. So he's played at the Ford Field before, won a state championship there, and then he played at Hillsdale College, which is a FCS school. It's a lower division school. Anyway, then he transferred to Arkansas. And he's just always been a Lions fan, being from Michigan. And when he went to his interview, he was wearing his Lions jersey that he's owned for years. I think it was a Calvin Johnson jersey, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so he did that. Let's see, the Lions' sixth-round draft pick, defensive end Ahmed Hassani from Boise State, was on his phone call with Coach Campbell, and he was basically crying and told him that he would die for him on the field. He was so glad to be picked by Detroit. And then soon after that, he turned around and proposed to his girlfriend at the party that they were having at the house after he was selected. So two little stories for that guy. Pretty cool on draft day. Locally, two guys from Western Michigan got drafted. Actually, one guy got drafted and a couple others got signed. So a cornerback, Bilal Kone, I had to listen to the local sportscaster to get his name right last night, but he was a sixth-round pick by the Ravens, and this is the fourth straight year that a Western Michigan player has been selected in the draft. He is the 54th player drafted out of Western Michigan over the years, so that's pretty cool for our little town here. Also, offensive lineman Teddy Cushy and Addison West, both offensive linemen, signed free agent contracts with the Dolphins after the draft. So they're getting two of our offensive linemen in Miami. I think that's pretty cool. Well, let's see, a couple other stories here. Steelers' first-round pick Derek Harmon's mother passed away shortly after he called her to tell her the good news. I guess that she had been she was in the hospital and near Detroit, so I don't know anything about her condition or what was going on, but she was obviously pretty sick, and he called her up, and she got the message, and then passed away soon after that. So that's kind of a sad story, which we don't like to talk about those, but that was one of the big stories. That was one of the big stories coming out of
like day one, because the first round pick,
right?
You get to at least see your son achieve his dream before passing on. So it's sad, but at the same time, you're like, I'm glad. You kind of feel like, well, at least she got to hear that,
right?
Which is kind of cool at the same time, but again, sad.
Yeah. And Mr. Irrelevant this year, the 257th pick, Kobe Minor, a defensive back from Memphis, was selected by the New England Patriots, and that was thanks to a compensatory pick that they picked up from the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's it for the draft. But there's a lot of other news that came out in and around the draft. The 2025 schedule is going to be released on May 14th. So we've only got about 2 weeks, and we'll get that schedule. We found out that the Lions and the San Diego Chargers are going to play in the Hall of Fame game in Canton this year on Thursday night, July 31st at 8 p.m. And they also, another thing about the Lions this year, they I think it was Roger Goodell that said, or I don't know if it was just a press release from the league, but the Lions' start time for their annual Thanksgiving Day game is going to be moved from 12:30 to 1 o'clock. They think it's going to make it easier on fans or whatever, but a half hour doesn't make a big difference. But it's, as far as I can remember, it's always been a 12:30 kickoff on Thanksgiving
I've always wondered
Day.
why it was so, like, it was a half hour before a normal Sunday
Right.
kind of kickoff.
Yeah.
So to me, it just lines it up with what we would normally deal with, like, on a Sunday.
Well, probably a little longer halftime show, a little longer post game show with all the ceremonies and the turkey legs and all that going on in Detroit. I don't know, but that's not a real big deal, I guess. Let's see. The NFL also said that they are going to be having 3 games on Christmas Day from now on. So, yeah, they added 3 games on Thanksgiving a few years ago. Now they got 3 games on Christmas. My gosh.
Because it was just 2
Can't
games
they-
this last year, so now they're adding a 3rd game. So,
Yeah, well,
boy, your whole day is going to be
yeah.
filled with football, whatever day Christmas falls on this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with all the games on Thanksgiving, but Christmas Day, no. I would think maybe one.
They're really trying to stick
Do
it
it
to
the-
the NBA.
I don't know. I'm not in favor of the Christmas Day games.
I mean, it wasn't bad. It just depends. Like, the rumor is the Lions might have one of those Christmas Day games. And if that's the case, man, my girlfriend's sick of football already. Thanksgiving and Christmas taking. I mean, and Mom will clearly hate us too for that. So.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that the estimated attendance over the 3-day event at the draft in Green Bay is to be around 600,000 attendees. And I know there's a lot of Lions fans I've seen on social media kind of, oh, gee, Green Bay, you couldn't match up to what we did in Detroit. And while that's true, and I would say the same, I mean, it's not the same numbers Detroit
Sure.
pulled in, but it is impressive that, like, the town of Green Bay is only 100,000 people.
Right, yeah.
And they pretty much doubled in population each of the days of the draft,
Yeah.
which is still pretty crazy.
Packers fans will travel anywhere from their home to Green Bay, and an event like this, yeah, they're going to show up.
But what's crazy is I think a lot of the things I've heard was it was more Green Bay people you'd see in the crowd
Yeah.
than other. I saw a lot of Lions fans, though, and that's not just inside the main amphitheater of the draft. It was like you see some of the aerial shots just kind of going around the outside parts of the crowd. I saw quite a few Lions fans. So Lions fans traveled to this. But when we went to the draft last year, even on that Saturday, it was a healthy mix of a bunch of different fan
Oh, yeah,
bases.
it's a little bit of everybody. Of course,
Yeah.
of course, lots of Lions fans.
Yeah, very heavy Lions. But it did feel like there was a more even dispersal of other
right.
pockets of fandom there, which was
Right.
pretty cool. And look, I'm not gonna make fun of Green Bay a whole lot for the being 175,000 less or whatever it was that
Yeah.
the Detroit had. Still impressive.
Yeah.
The fact that the draft has turned into this
Yeah.
is pretty impressive. And when you look at the aerial shots, I almost thought, like, crap, that looks like it was more than Detroit, but it was still a little shorter. But you compact all those people in there. But unfortunately, I did see quite a bit of concrete between some of those people, Green Bay. So you had a lot to make up for it, even sniff what Detroit
I
did.
think the main part of the event in Green Bay was like all in the parking lot outside of Lambeau Field, whereas in Detroit it was the entire downtown area.
Yeah.
That
Detroit seems like they had more space to work with, but Green Bay didn't. They only had like some overflow for inside the stadium, and
Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't incorporate more of the historic Lambeau Field as well.
well, they don't want anybody trampling on the field. We went there for a tour and they wouldn't let us touch the grass.
That's because we were Lions fans. They wouldn't let us touch the grass.
All right, let's move on to another story here. The Washington Commanders are planning to build a new $3 billion, 65,000 seats dome stadium with a translucent roof on the site of the old RFK Stadium in D.C. They've been playing in Landover, Maryland for the last 20, 30 years, so they're moving back into Washington, D.C. itself now, it looks like. Groundbreaking is planned for next year, and it should be complete in time for the 2030 season. Commissioner Goodell hinted that Washington could host a Super Bowl in their new stadium. Got a dome stadium,
That's
sure.
usually the case. And
Yep.
if this stadium pans out, and I really kind of hope it does. If it pans out like they draw it up, the concept art that they showed where you could see is it the White House or the Capitol building, like from that angle, like through the glass in the distance, is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'll admit that, and we'll have to have our buddy Mike get us some tickets when they open that stadium in a few years. But I'm all for these new stadiums. A lot of them look great, and it's an upgrade from what they've got in DC for sure. FedEx Field is trash, or whatever it's called now, is trash. It is terrible. So I'm very anxious for them to get a new stadium, and should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think they've actually torn down the old RFK Stadium. It was still up last I knew. There was some reason why they couldn't destroy it or tear it down, and then they finally got the word, okay, you can demolish it now. But I don't think it's happened yet.
Oh, is it tariffs? Are the tariffs prevent us from tearing down that stadium?
I don't know. Maybe the equipment they need is coming from China and it's in a port in San Diego or something. And
here we go, getting too
it.
political. I got a couple other stories real quick that kind of broke today. The first one was that George Kittle and the 49ers agreed to terms on a 4-year contract. The extension is worth $76.4 million with $40 million guaranteed. And then another tight end, just a little while ago before we started recording, I saw that the Vikings reached an agreement with on a 1-year, $23 million extension that includes $22.4 million guaranteed for linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel. I thought the picture looked like T.J. Hawkinson.
Oh,
but Van Ginkel, who had a very good year, he was a pretty good player. He was kind of like the Vikings Anzalone so running around with his blonde hair. So pretty interesting that he got a very nice deal. And he when that guy played, he hits. We saw him hit a Montgomery at one point during their last game of the season. That dude could hit.
That was a vicious hit. All right, why don't you take this next story since you're the one that watched the
oh, yes. Netflix has announced, a new documentary, guys. We all love Netflix, right? We love sports documentaries. Well, here's one for you called Untold, The Fall of Favre. That's right, a documentary about the dark, seedy goings-ons of Brett Favre's life, which, us Lions fans love to see. Let's tear this guy down even more. Yeah. This will be released on May 20th. It looks like they're getting into the nitty-gritty of all that. The picture scandal in New York and the legal stuff he's been dealing with the last few years of embezzling or whatever. Yep. So, I know that my fiance is big into the true crime sort of stuff, and this might be one up her alley that I could get her to watch.
Well, I like football documentaries, if it's of a historical perspective, and I can't stand Brett Favre, but you know what? I might watch this because I do hate him so much.
Get your popcorn ready.
I want to know every dirty sort of detail about the man I can't stand. So, I may actually watch this one.
May 20th on Netflix.
Right by my birthday.
Get your subscription now.
Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday, Randy. Go hate Brett Favre some more.
Yeah, there we go. All right, we're going to talk about some CFL news right now. The CFL draft is tonight, and Calgary has the first overall pick in the 9-round draft. The Calgary Stampeders earlier today selected Australian punter Fraser Mason in the first round of the CFL Global Draft. He played his last 3 seasons at Ole Miss. The global draft kicked off at 11 a.m. this morning. Only 2 rounds and 18 players selected, but I knew they were both on the same day, but I didn't realize they were going to do the global draft first. Let's see. Most of these kids that they selected, the 18 players, all played for NCAA colleges last year, but because they are foreign citizens, they're calling this the global draft. And in the second round, get a load of this, Winnipeg selected James Evans from New Zealand, who played at Indiana last season. So I think we know somebody down there, Nathan, that probably knows this guy pretty good.
Right.
So maybe he'll be a CFL fan now.
Tell him to go up to the CFL. He will love it up there.
Let's see. The new CFL commissioner, Stuart Johnston, was officially introduced to the media back on April 24th, last week. He's the 15th commissioner in the league. He thanked Randy Ambrosie for doing a good job, and he didn't really talk about. I was watching his press conference earlier today, and he didn't really talk about what his vision for the future was. There was a question and answer period. I didn't sit through that, so I don't know if anybody asked him, what about a 10th team and this and that. I got to go back and finish watching that later. But I'd be very interested to see what are his plans for the league. What are the things that he thinks is important? I know he's always in his speech he did say that having fun, getting our product out there, are big, which is good. I mean, I liked everything he said.
I guess this was on CFL Plus.
Yes.
So yeah, they're making use of that great CFL
Right.
Plus site. So
Yep.
love that.
Yep.
And I also want to say that I mean, that we broke away from the NFL, we got into the CFL, which means we couldn't be further from talking about Shedeur Sanders and all that goings on down here in the States. I mean, if I have to hear about Shedeur Sanders one more time the rest of this podcast, I might punch somebody in the face.
Oh, well, I hope it's not me, because the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL have added Shedeur Sanders to their negotiation list. So if he doesn't work out in the NFL, Toronto gets first crack at him up in the CFL in Canada.
I know he would hate to go to the CFL. But is it weird that I selfishly would love for some of these quarterbacks to just go up to the CFL, because I think they would legitimately be great up there. Yeah. I don't know if Shedeur is going to pan out in the NFL. I really don't. But a Shedeur Sanders up in the CFL would be a king. Mm. I mean, he ain't going to be making the money like he would be down here.
Sure.
But he would be.
If he could win some games up there, they would love him.
He's kind of got that swagger, and I feel like it's something that, not that the CFL's missing a swagger, but he would bring something to the CFL that I think would broaden its appeal down here in the States. Mm. And I know it's not going to happen, but I'm picturing him in an Argonauts uniform, playing the way he kind of plays. And while I don't think he's the greatest, like I said, he's not the greatest quarterback prospect down here in the NFL,
right.
But in the CFL, and I'm not saying this is bad on their quarterback talent, because they got a lot of good quarterbacks up there. I think his style of play lends itself to the bigger game that the CFL kind of is, the 12 players on the field,
right.
With, his mobility. I feel like his game actually translates to the CFL a little better than people might think.
Well,
I could be wrong.
It's hard to say.
And we'll never know. Probably will never know.
Mike McMahon was a great backup quarterback for the Lions.
Yeah.
And he went up there and he did not do very well. He didn't last very long up there in Canada. Johnny Manziel went up there, and then you've got people like the old Redskins quarterback Theismann. He went up there and came like within a play or two of winning a Grey Cup for his 2 or 3 years that he was up there. So and Warren Moon really thrived up there. Won 5 straight Grey Cups in his 6 years up there. So it's hard to say who's going to succeed and who won't in Canada. But I think I think a lot more people should give it a try, especially players that aren't expecting a $50 million contract, because you're never going to get that up there.
No.
Yeah.
But you could put together a heck of a highlight reel and have a good year under your belt and show that you can play, right. And then you go down to the States and maybe you latch onto a team.
Yep.
So.
That's what happened with Warren Moon. He spent 6 years up there. Nobody even drafted him, and he comes back here and had a great career. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. We got some college football news. It was announced that TCU and North Carolina are going to kick off the 2026 college football season at the annual game that's played in Dublin, Ireland. That's going to be on Friday, August 29th.
Oh, boy, they're sending Bill Belichick and his fiancée or girlfriend or whoever over there.
Oh, that's right. That is his
after his awkward CBS interview over the weekend. Did you watch that?
I just saw highlights of it.
Woof.
I just saw the point where she said, "We're not talking about that."
Oh, my gosh. Something smells rotten in the state of North Carolina.
Well, Bill Belichick is so tight-lipped all the time. I didn't think he needed somebody to tell him we're not going to talk about that.
Oh, apparently he does. Maybe she's running the show. Is she secretly the head coach of the UNC Tar Heels? I don't know.
In another story I found, the Division II, the FCS division, or no, this is below the FCS division. Division II is expanding their playoff bracket from 28 teams to 32 teams beginning this upcoming year. The 4 number 1 seeds will no longer receive automatic buys under this new format. So that way the championship game won't have to be changed, pushed back a week because of an extra bunch of games. So the timing is still going to be the same, but they're adding more teams and just not giving a bye to the top 4 division winners.
Interesting.
All right, let's move on to today's birthdays for April 29th. Coach George Allen, born on this date in 1918. He passed away in 1990 at the age of 72. He was an assistant coach with the LA Rams in 1957. and with the Chicago Bears from 59 to 65. Then he became the head coach of the Rams from 66 to 70, and more famously, he's known as the head coach of the Washington Redskins from 71 to 77. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2002.
Go listen to our interview we did a whiles back with Mike Richardson.
Yeah, Richmond,
sorry, about this exact guy.
Yeah, he wrote a book about him.
He did another pretty good talk over the weekend about him.
Gave a presentation during our get-together and talked about that. So, George Allen, birthday today. And let's see, obituaries. We got 4 of them this week. This is where we take a moment and we honor those who've made the world of football a better place. The first one is probably the best known of the ones here this week. Steve Mongo McMichael, a defensive tackle and nose tackle in the NFL for 15 seasons, has passed away of ALS at the age of 67. McMichael played college football at Texas and was selected in the 3rd round of the 1980 NFL draft by the New England Patriots. He played 1 season for New England in 1980. He was cut by the Patriots and signed as a free agent with the Chicago Bears, where he played from 1981 to 1993, winning Super Bowl 20 as a member of the 1985 Bears team. He finished his playing career with the Green Bay Packers in 1994. McMichael was remotely inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame last year due to failing health. You remember that they took his jacket to his house because he was bedridden, and I guess he was transferred to hospice care just a day or two before he passed away. So a bit of a sad story there, and I believe he got his nickname Mongo from Blazing Saddles. I guess they associated him with the character of Mongo, so that's where he got that nickname.
Okay. I didn't hear the thing there at the end, so I didn't realize it was my turn. I was looking up the news stories. Anyway, our next obituary is that of Lupe Sanchez, defensive back in the NFL and the USFL, has passed away at the age of 63. Sanchez played college football at UCLA and was selected in the 2nd round of the 1984 NFL supplemental draft by the Kansas City Chiefs. However, he signed with the Arizona Wranglers of the USFL in 1984 and played 1 season with that team. He also played for the USFL's Orlando Renegades in 1985. Sanchez then signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he played for 3 seasons from 1986 to 1988.
Our next obituary is that of Steve Kiner, a linebacker in the NFL for 8 seasons. He has passed away at the age of 77. Kiner played college football at Tennessee and was selected in the 3rd round of the 1970 NFL draft by the Dallas Cowboys. He played for the Cowboys in 1970, the New England Patriots in 1971 and 1973, and he finished his career with the Houston Oilers from 1974 to 1978. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1999.
And our final obituary this week is that of Tom Brown, a defensive back in the NFL for 6 seasons, has passed away at the age of 84. Brown played college football at Maryland and was selected in the 2nd round of the 1963 NFL draft by the Green Bay Packers. He was also selected in the 3rd round of the 1963 American Football League draft by the Buffalo Bills. He signed with the Packers and played for the team from 1964 to 1968, winning 3 consecutive NFL titles, including the first 2 Super Bowls. He finished his playing career with the Washington Redskins in 1969.
All right. Finally today, our upcoming events calendar. Tonight, the CFL Draft at 6 p.m., 8 rounds, 72 players being selected. They actually moved the start time from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock because they didn't want to compete with an NHL playoff Game 5 between Toronto and Ottawa.
Well, God forbid, I mean, I get it. Hockey's big up there.
Sure,
and there are
absolutely.
2 Canadian franchises in the playoffs playing each other. Yeah,
the Battle of Ontario.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, I get it. Let's see. Friday, May 2nd, La Liga de Fútbol Americano Profesional will begin playing. Wednesday, May 14th, the 2025 NFL schedule is going to be released. Saturday, May 17th, the European League of Football will begin. We got more football coming our way, folks. Monday, May 17th, the CFL preseason begins. And on May 30th, the Arena League begins its season. So, yeah, a lot of football coming up. We're just getting started.
Yep, man. It'll all be here before we know it. Man, May is going to be a very busy month.
It is, yep. Anything else we should know about that popped up in the last few minutes? I know you've been on your phone quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm just scrambling, making sure that we got everything covered. I don't see anything else really that has jumped out. Still kind of waiting to see if there's more of this Corpus Christi stuff coming through. That's kind of been the hot topic in the arena scene. But with the CFL draft tonight, we'll have quite a bit to talk about next week because who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, CFL.ca, the website, they have a draft tracker on there, and you can follow all the draft picks if you're so inclined. But Calgary has the first pick overall, and like I said, 72 players. Yeah, 72 players will be selected over 8 rounds tonight. All right, and a programming note. Next week, our podcast will come out on Wednesday, May 7th, instead of Tuesday the 6th. So
is that what we're agreeing to?
Yeah, it's a day late next week.
Okay, I thought we were going to do it on Monday, but okay.
Well, do you think we should do it on Monday?
I have no idea when we should do it, to be honest.
I think it'd be easier if we do it on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, all right, we'll push it back to Wednesday then.
All right, that's all the time we've got for this week. Man, what a jam-packed show we had today. Don't forget to check out the World of Football merchandise at tpublic.com.
Buy a shirt.
For the latest in football-related T-shirts, hats, mugs, and more.
Buy 2 T-shirts.
From our merch store.
Yeah.
And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than the two of us guys sitting here in Kalamazoo talking about football. Join us again next week when we'll try and do a better job. Yeah, right. I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm Adam Snow.
And we'll see you again next week.
On Wednesday.
Sometime next week.
On Wednesday.
Maybe Monday.
But Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Not the Netflix show.
No. But that's good, too.
Yeah, it is.
I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
On Wednesday.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this installment of This Week in the World of Football. New episodes of the podcast are posted every Tuesday and can be found wherever good podcasts are found. You can find the World of Football on Facebook, Instagram, and X by searching for TWOF Kalamazoo or using the links down in the episode description. Head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the World of Football for more fun football-related content. Just search for the World of Football Kalamazoo or use the handle @the World of Football. Thanks for listening and hope to see you again next time.